And people are still defending. Instead of people say, we acknowledge that this error has been made. How do we move forward? They are still lying on top of a lie, which is that thing they say, when you lie and you're caught, you're going to lie the second one to cover the other lie. And I think that's what's been happening. Right from 1976, 1977, somebody started this journey with a lie by, first of all, claiming that a secondary school that was not existing gave him a certificate. And then again, claiming that a Southwest College that he did not attend gave him a transcript with which he used to scam a whole university. Because we are now trying to say, if indeed this person went to the university, he must have scammed his way into the university. So let us accept that he went to the university. And then from there, came back to Nigeria as far back as 1999 and have been playing. So this is a pattern of behavior that have lasted for about 47 to 48 years. And people are still sticking out their neck to defend, including Festus Keyamo, that has stood before the judges to fight this same cause we are fighting today. I pray, God, may I never get the kind of opportunity Festus Keyamo got in politics that will make me deny myself like him. Because he knows the truth. But the politics money, he has eaten that poisoned apple of politics, and everything he believed in, he's rejecting it. And that is one of the reasons why our democracy and our politics and our leadership and our economy is in a mess today. When the likes of Wole Soyinka, men all of us respect, can now wake up in the face of these lies, Soyinka is not talking. And this is supposed to be a Nobel laureate, a scholar, whom all of us, when it comes to the issue of academic certificate, qualification, forgery, a man like Wole Soyinka should be on the streets, revolting, screaming, condemning. Where are they today? Where are they today? Now, that leads us to show us what is happening in our judiciary. Because when it comes to our governance, the official people that are governing us are the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. The legislature grew through the rank and file of their professionalism. The other two arms are pure politicians that can kill and do anything to get to power. Judiciary can tame them. Therefore, anybody who can tame the judiciary will control our politics. You agree with me? And so let us see what is happening in our judiciary, please. Let's play.
23 High Court judges that was sworn in happens to be the son of the Chief Justice of Nigeria.
Can you go back a bit?
That one of the 23 High Court judges that was sworn in happens to be the son of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Ariwola Jr. What do you make of the optics? Is there anything fundamentally wrong with that?
It's messed up. Thank you for having me. I mean, I'm not going to disappoint you and tell you that it is fantastic. That is not true. I think the idea that the Chief Justice of Nigeria, and first of all, I've got to wish all the new judges well. By the way, judging is a very difficult thing. It's a huge responsibility to sit in judgment over others. For those who are Christian or live by the Christian Holy Book, it says, "Judge not so that you shall not be judged." And so judging is a very heavy responsibility. And I'm not going to sit down here and tell you that I don't have a sense of consideration for the responsibilities these people are taking. I think I'm older than everyone who's been sworn in here. And so anyone who's older than me falls into a bracket, younger than me falls into a bracket. But that said, the idea that the Chief Justice sits down at the NJC to be approving appointments for his son and the children of his mates and all of that is messed up. And we have to be honest in saying that. He's saying the NJC barks and bites and bites aggressively. Will the Chief Justice bite his son aggressively? That's the problem. When they are filling the judiciary with their family members, will they be going to bite their family members aggressively? These are other people's children that they'll be biting aggressively. There is something fundamentally wrong with that. That's the problem here.
So in this case, you know, you've been on the issues of rights for the people and as well. This is coming back to the judiciary, the NJC, and perhaps we should start talking about how we got here, because as Nigerians and every lover of jurisprudence will say, justice must be seen and felt. What do you think should be done to remedy a bad situation as highlighted by you?
No, we all are Nigerians, and the first thing we've got to do is to acknowledge that we've got a problem. Until Justice Uwais, who was the 8th indigenous Chief Justice of Nigeria, only one Chief Justice, the first Chief Justice, Chief Justice Ademola, had a son or a child of his on the judiciary. That was the late Neka Ademola, who rose to the Court of Appeal but couldn't get to the Supreme Court for reasons that should not detain us here. But since then, I will not go into details on this program, but most Chief Justices, with the exception of about 2 of them, have had, or 3, if I add one of the ones that was forced out, have had their children or relatives appointed to high office in the judiciary. That will suggest a tendency that needs to be questioned. And when members of the bench begin to convert judicial office in order to create family dynasties in it, that begins to undermine public confidence in the judiciary. The Code of Conduct, the Judicial Code of Conduct, supervised by the National Judicial Council under the self-same Chief Justice, legislates that members of the judiciary should not convert their office for private gain or for the gain of their relatives. When I, as a senior judge or a Chief Justice, begin to plant my children onto the bench, creating intergenerational family succession pipelines, what I am doing is converting my judicial office into private gain. That violates the Judicial Code of Conduct. That is exactly what is happening. And when that happens, people lose faith in the judiciary.
Even when these children or relatives do qualify, or even more than qualify in some instances, I mean, should they pay?
Can you pause it, please?
Just because, yeah.
You know, I'd like to be given.
So we don't lose track. I like those terminologies you use. Creating family succession pipeline, which is against the Code of Conduct. The Code of Conduct says you should not use your office to the benefit of yourself, of your family. The NJC chairman is the CJN, the Chief Justice of the Federation, which means before the judges are passed or approved, he must sign it out. He must tick it up. And so the people he vetted include his son. It was from 20 states that they got those judges. And his son is the only representative from Oyo State. The question is, all the lawyers practicing in Nigeria, his son is the most qualified. In the whole of Oyo State, one family will corner the whole thing. You see why they can't look politicians in the face and challenge them? Because there's no difference. It says, family dynasty will, if we convert the judiciary into a family dynasty, it will erode public confidence. Senator Bulkachawa told us how he was influencing his wife, who was the president of the Court of Appeal. And when I think Justice Mary Odele, I think Justice Mary Odele's daughter is currently in the bench. Because as she was leaving, as I'm told, I don't know, I'll have to confirm, as she was leaving, one of the retirement package given to her was to bring her daughter in the bench as a judge. And do we remember that Peter Obi was a governor in Rivers State for 8 years? And when he left office, he went to court, to the Supreme Court, to get a perpetual injunction. Nobody can investigate his time. 1999 to 2007, the Supreme Court, where his wife was sitting, gave a perpetual injunction barring anybody from investigating him for life. And his wife left as a judge. And the daughter is there now, coming in as a judge. And Chief Justice, who is vetting, also included, in the whole of Oyo State, picked only his son. You haven't heard. Let us continue with this question. The lady is asking so far, what if their children are qualified? What if they are qualified? Now let's listen to
one example of any of these so-called qualified, overqualified children. You know the thing. First of all, the genius of anyone should not be the punishment of a parent to discover that they've given birth to a genius. If you've given birth to a genius, the world should certify it, not you. So a self-interested certification by a parent of the genius, judicial, forensic, legal genius of their child will always be self-interested and suspect. Number two, as a matter of fact, I can tell you stories and give you instances of people who have sons and daughters and other people in other relationships I don't want to mention on children's television, who have failed the examinations and yet been jumped over people who were better qualified because they were what? Related to judicial figures. Femi Falana 2 years ago mentioned one who actually scored 0 in the written tests and was nevertheless appointed. He came from one of the states of the Southwest. In this cycle of appointments, as actually amongst the people sworn in today, if I may, there was one particular one who failed the computerized tests, but was jumped ahead of people who passed. Okay? In another cycle of appointments, not too long ago, there was one person who didn't even participate at all in the interviews of any sort and was put on the list because they were related to another judicial figure. When these happen like that, and the people who are involved, I am not involved, but I know, and don't ask me how I know, but I know. When this happens and people know these things, they don't have respect for the people who are appointed. Not mind the fact that we'll go and say, my lord and my lady. We know who is who.
It's okay.
Right, very quickly, on to one of the points raised by the CJN during the swearing in. He actually...
Okay. In this cycle, meaning these people they swore in yesterday, somebody failed, and despite the fact that the person failed, they picked him over someone who passed. And the criteria why they picked him is because he is related to the people making the choice. That is number one. Some other persons some time ago who did not even participate in the qualifying test from nowhere woke up and was appointed. Why? Because of connection. Now tell me why such people cannot give a judgment that will benefit the politicians. Because remember that the DSS, remember that the EFCC, remember that even the public prosecution, Department of Public Prosecution, or whatever you call it, under the Office of the Attorney General, all of them are under the executive. And so when Wike told you that Tinubu can never lose in the tribunal, it's not because of evidence. It's because they, in the executive, knows that the scoreboard of the judiciary in itself smells of fresh skeleton. and that they dare not do what the executive wants because they can be exposed. When they bring out their dossier, the nation will run away. Nigeria, where do we head from here? When the people we look up to save us are actually sitting in the same table where they're planning how to destroy us. Have you seen the judiciary that we are looking up to? Have you seen the makeup of according to him, the people who call my lord and my ladies? Have you seen the makeup of our lords and our ladies? Don't they? This is, in fact, even politicians will even use money and use thugs. But this one is systemic family succession pipeline. That's what he called it. This is more dangerous. People who are this professionally corrupt are more dangerous than politicians, because politicians, highest, you are 4 years in office. They knock you out and you go and fight with your fellow politicians again. But as a judge, it's only your age or the number of years, either 35 years, I think now they have increased their age to 65 or 70, I can't remember. So the moment you enter, you are there for life. Now, let's continue. Please, let's continue.
Charged the judges to always apply constitutional provisions in deciding each case, constitutional provisions and their conscience. Quoting the CJN there, how important is it to stress this point?
Well, clearly, the judges swear to apply the law, and the basis of the law is the Constitution. So if he wants to restate it, it's well within his rights as Chief Justice to restate it. But that is what the lawyers swear to do. The point is that the judges swear to do, indeed the lawyers, as a matter of fact. But it seems to me this is a point that needs to be restated not just to incoming judges, but to existing judges and justices at all levels. When you read some of the judgments coming out of these election petitions, you wonder whether the senior judges and justices who are sitting on those across the board, particularly at the state levels in many of the cases, you wonder whether many of them actually are aware of this particular admonition by the current Chief Justice, that they should be bound by law and by the Constitution. And that is a challenge in the country at the moment. And the perception that justice, or what people call justice, or certainly judgments, or the business of the courts is being transacted, for value, for material value between parties and those who are deciding the cases is very high. And we've got to acknowledge that reality. If we don't acknowledge that reality, something is wrong. Now, there are good judges, there are hardworking judges, there are judges who are doing their best in very difficult circumstances. And the fact that the NJC is not effective enough in disciplining the ones who are bringing the vocation of the judiciary into disrepute is giving a bad name to, indeed, the judges who are doing hard work. And the NJC needs to do better.
Well, Mr. Odinkalu, we'll stay with you and I will come back to you after this moment. Stay with us.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Okay, so we can all see it, people. We can see that the official three arms of the government that is supposed to, the official three arms we have that are governing us is sick. I'm sorry. Of course, we know that the politicians, they are like, their own is like, the way some people are suffering from a certain disease that they have to always inject themselves, like someone who is suffering all this kind of sickness that is like, it's normal. That is it. We know politicians, they are always going to do whatever they can do to win. But it is challenging that the judiciary we look up to is no different from those we are running away from. The judiciary we look up to, in the way they hire, they prepare themselves, because what is the moral boldness they will have when they sit in judgment? Can they look in the face of the man who put them there and put the man in jail? If they try anything, let's just even use, I'm sorry to say this, but I have to, facts. Let's face facts. Tell me how this judiciary, as we know today, can remove a sitting president. When, if they try it, remember, it was a defense lawyer to the president that has now been promoted to become the Minister of Justice. He is now the Chief Executive Officer of the Judiciary. He will read the riot act to them and say, behave yourself, because DSS might, remember during Buhari's regime, how DSS was raiding judges' quarters. They couldn't even find anything because these were judges who looked at the system and they feel like we don't know what is happening. You can imagine the sleaze that is happening in the judiciary. And now ask yourself, how can these people deliver justice? No, they will only deliver judgment, but not justice, unless our God. Somebody asked me today, we're talking about this, and I say, then the person said, well, then what do we do? I said, God is in heaven. He can come and scatter all these people and reset the whole thing. But that aside, there is also another body we call the fourth estate of the realm. The fourth estate of the realm is the media, is the journalists, is those who dig information and make it bear so that the people will know what is happening. And those people, even though they are not officially recognized as a part of the government, the Constitution gives them the mandate to be those people can resort to get information on what is happening. They themselves are in trouble. And how do I know? Because a strong media personality is lamenting at what is happening in the media. Can we play the third video, please?
Bless you. Good morning, Mary.
Beautiful morning. Now, we're starting on a good note this morning before we go into the big stories, the big ones. This says Nigerians to obtain passport in 2 weeks, says the federal government. Now, this minister is one of the ministers that is giving Nigerians joy. I did my own research and I found out that some people that have applied for passport, they were among the backlog that was cleared. They actually came out to testify. They told me that they were able to go there and that they got their passport. They told them to come back on Friday, you get it, and they actually got it. So this minister, Olubume, is giving us joy. Oh my goodness, I thought you heard me. Well, I think we're having a bit of a network challenge here, but let's see.
But they could not account for where the discrepancies came from. The school also affirmed that they have a porous system because most of the answers the school was giving, they couldn't even answer in the affirmative, and it's quite very different. And why I'm saying this, posterity with judges and Judge BOP, is that there's a constant media blackout. A lot of people are, for some felony reason, are deliberately not reporting the full deposition. They're just reporting the government's reaction to it, and that's a media spin going on. As a journalist, you report all sides. They also further affirmed that there was a certain Mr. Orr that first gave Mr. Tinubu's lawyers his what's it called? The certifications that he got out of school that they are reading. And they said the Mr. Orr certified the document against the convention of CSU. They said it was an express case or something. And they said that Mr. Orr left the school after he certified the document. So, but they said they didn't know the reason why he left. And they talked about myriads of issues. For some people that were lying that there was now Reba was not subpoenaed by CSU, now Reba didn't subpoena CSU. They confirmed that they gave CSU gave now Reba the documents he came to present in the Nigerian court, that the Nigerian court failed to continue with the case.
Can we pause? Can I come in, please?
Excuse me. When they interrogated them for that.
Just hold on. Point number one. So we just grab everything before he's saying here. He said there is a complete media blackout. That's most of the media is not reporting the detail of the transcript. They are just reporting the government side. And how did he summarize it? He says, this is pure media spin. Now, I told us last night, and I stand to be corrected. I am a professional PR person. I have a postgraduate diploma in public relations. When they hire a PR manager to a firm, it's PR managers are hired to come and help them. PR managers are known when there is a mess in the system. How can he spin things to clean up the system, to manage the damage? There is a media blackout. That's the first thing the media do is they suppress the truth and they magnify the lie. That's when you know that it's called media spin. Suppress the truth, magnify the lie. Say what people want to hear. That's what TVC is doing. But I don't have any problem with TVC though, because TVC is owned by the man. If they are not defending their man, that station will close. But it says, be a balanced media. To be a real fourth estate of the realm, you have to do what? Report both the good and the bad and let the people make their choice. Let the people make their choice. Thirdly, he said here, Mr. O, a certified document that was given to Tinubu's lawyer against the convention of the university. And after that, he left the university and nobody knows. These are contained in the transcript. I have it. The guy, they don't Roger the guy well, low. That's what I'm thinking. He looked at his retirement benefit and every other thing and feel like, look, how much am I going to get from this system relative to what I'm being offered? Come, he made a move. After certifying a document, Mr. O, the guy Waka, he jackpot out of the university. And the reason why he left the university, nobody knows. Just so we see some of the things that even happened before we knew. So the pattern continued. Let's go on.
That you say you don't have any student record in your deposition, but where did you see the record you gave an hour ever? Then they changed mouth again. On the part of Mr. Henderson, yes, when he asked his question, they confirmed to him that, okay, there could be public case of clerical errors, like they said before, and he also confirmed that they graduated and he asked a couple of other questions. But what it is that it's quite very, very shocking, the deposition. And it's in full. I think every Nigerian should know what is happening. I just needed to say this out there, and that's the facts and nothing but the facts. Over 200 pages deposition. I took out my time, I read through everything yesterday. You know,
I said 155 pages as a matter of fact.
because some people were trying to say all sorts yesterday. Some, in fact, some newspapers tried to spin it based on their own angle and all. But that was not the truth because they didn't see the full transcript. The full transcript was not out until 12 noon yesterday. So this is the highlights of, the full transcript.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that out, because there are different angles to this story, to this different perspective, different. Some people are saying that
there's a complete media blackout on it. In fact, the only paper I've seen this morning that quoted from the full transcript is this day. They're the only ones that are the balanced side of the reportage. The other papers I've seen are just reporting the government's reaction, which is not balanced media.
Why don't you put the whole story out there? Now, some argument, think in the public discourse, it's been said that, okay, the school has affirmed that he actually graduated from that school, from the Chicago University, and also he's male. So what else are people looking for? That's
Mary, but the school could not affirm that because the school did not even verify the Southwestern College record. They said it in the deposition yesterday that was showing that he was female. The school also confirmed that they don't have a good verification mechanism. The bone of contention is not graduation, Mary. See, for you to submit a document under oath, there must be an authenticating body of the documents. So what the president did was that he submitted a document that did not come from the school under oath, and he claimed it came from the school. And that's false under oath. That's the substantive matter here. It's not a case of graduation or no graduation. All right? He claimed that the document was from his school and he submitted it under oath. So take, for instance, Mary. If I want to submit a document to you, there's going to be an issuing body. It's the issuing body that authenticates the document. They will have some level of veracity. So take, for instance, if I write you a letter and say from VOP, that's the issuing body. I have my authenticator. What if VOP now says they didn't write the letter? They got it from somewhere else. Is that a fraudulent letter?
It is.
That's the bone of contention. So the school has been able to affirm that they did not give him the document that he submitted to INEC. It's called the INEC diploma. The diploma is submitted.
But
Because in the evidence
it is
act,
admissible
in the
in
evidence
court.
act,
That because at the end of the day, what the Supreme Court will they take this?
Mary, I don't want to talk too much about our judicial system, but you and I know our judicial system very well. Our judicial system that as I yesterday the new judges were selected. There's a man, Anselm Chidiodinkalu, wrote an article talking about the fact that most of our judges are now putting their children in the judiciary. In fact, yesterday when they asked me this question, I said, oh, if they merit it. But on reading Anselm Chidiodinkalu's article, I saw some sense in it. Because take for instance, they said in 2020 about 15 positions were announced for new role judges in Federal High Court. That most of the 30 people they not finally employ were people that had affiliations to one or two judges inside the place. So it's to the court to admit it, but it's not the court to decide. But this evidence is clear and damning, and this is a clear case of logic. You claimed that the document you submitted was authorized by an issuing body. The issuing body said they did not know about the document you submitted. So what is that? So the issuing body cannot authenticate your document, and that's why the guys were not ready to authenticate the document, because they didn't give him the document. People have also extended the argument by saying you can print a third-party document, it's just ceremonial. For you to submit a document to a body like INEC, it must be authenticated because it falls short of the Evidence Act. You remember during the Election Petition Tribunal that they said they would not admit some document because it falls short of the Evidence Act. Say, for instance, the EU reports. They said it was not authenticated by the EU, that the EU himself did not come and make the deposition and cross-examine their witness. So if you submit a document that you got from a third party, not the issuing house that you claim authenticated the document, then it falls flat on the streets. And it was as good as no document was submitted, because it was as good as a fraudulent document. That's the conversation. See, Mary, these arguments they keep making, you are graduated, it's gaslighting. That's not the argument. It's just gaslighting. The main authentic part is the document you submitted has no integrity. The issuing house has come out to say that the document you submitted, they don't know about it. Mary, is just like you.
Yeah.
Say you're a member of staff of VOP.
Yeah.
And VOP said we did not issue your employment letter. Just imagine that.
But now VOP admit that I was actually a staff here at a point, but the employment letter that I submitted is not the one they gave me. That's it, right?
Good. So,
yes.
Well, does that make you a staff? Automatically, according to the law, you were not a staff of VOP. If you worked there, you were a freelancer.
But if at a point VOP said, okay, I was a staff here and this is the employment letter they gave me, but the one I am submitting to you is a different one, but actually I was a staff here at some point.
So automatically, automatically what they are saying is,
yeah,
you were a staff here.
Yes.
You could what they were it's not that what they were saying. You were saying you came here, but what you are submitting is not what they can authenticate. What authenticates you to actually be their staff is the fact that they can defend you and say, okay, the document you now went to tell another person with that you came here with is what we gave you. We authenticate it. But now they are saying they did not authenticate. They didn't know how the document was generated.
Okay. So, yeah, I think you...
Okay,
so
it's becoming really...
Enough. So,
it's clear here. Let's see. Imagine if all our media personality have this voice like Rufai had here. Now, listen, Rufai is not my friend. Rufai, in terms of reportage in the Nigerian politics and co, has been excellent. I, as a person, I quarrel with Rufai. He knows the level where we quarrel. But I am an objective person. We share some differences, very strong differences in our political ideologies, I must say. But in terms of his journalism in Nigerian politics, we seem to align. I'm not hiding that, so I am not blowing his trumpet here. I told you people here yesterday, I have to rush to buy Guardian in those days just so I could read Ruben Abati's column. Then he used to do a lot of things with Professor Patu Tomi. It's called the Patitos Gang, if you know what it's called, Patitos Gang then. But of course, he has tested politics money, and Ruben has gone his way. Now, if all our media personalities were to read, research, find the truth, and report it to Nigerians, don't you think the politicians will be on the edge? Don't we think that they will be cautious because they know that the media is going to skin them alive? But because the politicians know that the media is available, they are up for sale. David Hunde said it. He said it that he worked in the Nigerian media around 2015, and he realized that they are all for the highest bidder. They cannot say anything that will hurt deeply the man they are protecting his interest, the politician. And that is why the ones that is supposed to help us officially, they have failed us. The ones like the media that is supposed to help us unofficially, they are failing us. And the resultant effect of all of them is that our democracy is teetering, is suffering, the masses are in pain. Do you know how many people that died in Nigeria because of a tanker that exploded? How many people that have been kidnapped in schools up north since the inception of this administration? To what extent have our media reported it to be able to put pressure on government? To what extent? They scale it, they move on. They scale it, they move on. How many of our media are bringing these tweets by Festus Keyamo and dropping it in his face since all these stories started? Don't they see it? That is why the hope of Nigeria today are unofficial quote and unquote media houses like us, the People's Gazette, these platforms. Thank God for the opportunity we have of these platforms to say it the way it is. We are not saying it. Look, I am not a Labour Party man. I am not a PDP man or APC man. But when integrity starts bearing fruit in APC, I'll be the first to sing their praise. But as long as I'm concerned, APC is a swamp today. PDP is just when they are like, they're not here, they're not there. If they lose, they want to act Puritans. If they win, they are part and parcel. Because, I mean, is he not even, okay, look at it, I think it is in Bauchi State, the guy who contested for governorship in Bauchi State, who was telling us how corrupt APC was. He just lost and he has decamped back to APC. He has decamped back to APC. So, Nigeria, we need to all gather together, rally together, put pressure on these people, call out even the so-called mainstream media, put them under pressure, stop viewing them if they will not start telling us the truth. So that when they see how they have been abandoned, they can wake up to do something. Because if nothing is done, those that already have the power of the government, they have the gun, they have the money, they have the everything. And those that have the power of their voice in terms of the media, they are not doing anything. I pray God helps us. I don't know if you have more things to say or questions to ask, but this is where my own thoughts reaches its saturation this night.
Yeah, Doc, thank you very much. Honestly, Nigeria has turned out to be something else. These politicians, they always have their way, the method they use, in meandering. You can imagine Festus Keyamo tweeting that whosoever forged or forges his or her certificate should be disqualified or should be removed from his or her position. But today, I'm even happy that he has not come on Twitter to tweet on this issue. he has not really been that active since he assumed his office. But you can imagine how these people always like speak from one side of their mouth, and the next time you meet them, they are speaking from the other side. This was how he was even one of the people that was calling out Tinubu on this certificate of a thing. That was then. But today, he has turned around to like, it doesn't matter. It has gotten to this point now. Nigerian youths, they've docked and docked until they came up with this tweet. And I just hope that he comes across this tweet so that he will know that this thing has really backfired. I don't think he never knew that a time like this will come up in the history of Nigeria, that the sitting president will be undergoing what he's passing through today. But honestly, another thing is that this case is really affecting Nigerians across the world. I watched a particular video today where they were talking about some nurses in the UK have been asked to retake the exams that they took before, because it was discovered that some of them forged their certificate. You can imagine, just a few hands of them forged their certificate, but now they are like a huge number of them are being asked to go and retake this exam. So because of this latest development, another person tweeted today, I was like, she has already applied to a university, but she was being told that because of this trending topic in Nigeria, that they've stopped, processing anything any form that came from Nigerians. I think there were two other countries that they added in the list. So you can imagine this thing is just a big embarrassment to our country, and also to the citizens of Nigeria. And that's why we have to keep lending our voices. We must call these people that they should resign. I think that is just where we should stand today, that they should resign, because I think the damage will not be that much if he insists to stay in Aso Rock, because he can't really go out and boldly talk to his counterparts, from different countries. He can't really go out to stand for Nigerians. And we can't afford to stay in that kind of situation for the next 3.5 years. That's why we have to just keep lending our voices. Honestly, this thing has brought a very huge embarrassment. And for our politicians, we know the kind of the way their hearts are hardened, as in, they came out on the media only to tell Nigerians that Atiku went to the US, he came back empty-handed, that the information he brought, the record, does not mean anything. You can imagine the kind of narrative that they are painting upon the fact that the registrar of Chicago State University said the one submitted to INEC, we didn't give it. And Festus Kayamo is saying that anybody that forges WAEC certificate or any other certificate and submits it to INEC, that person should be disqualified. You mustn't submit a certificate, especially a degree or even a WAEC certificate. It's not a must. But if you claim you got to that stage of life and you presented a certificate, it was not discovered that it was forged, that you should be disqualified. This is a spokesperson for Tinubu, and this was what he posted. He tweeted years back, not knowing that it would backfire today. So I think it's really time for us to, stick with what we've been saying all this while, that these old politicians should give way for new people, fresh people, people who are not desperate, people who are ready to serve. And you can imagine, since it's about 6 months that they got into office, nothing is working in Nigeria. I mean, nothing, because they can't really sit down to think. People have been accusing this current government that they are just choosing, he's just choosing his boys, the people that worked with him in Lagos, fixing them in key position, whether they understand the system or whatever the job that they have been given to. They don't care to know. They just want his boys to be around him. And Nigerians are the ones suffering. The taxpayers who are even struggling with their businesses, they are the ones suffering today. So I just hope that the judiciary will stand firm. We've seen the CJN swearing in his own son. Possibly there are other people who are more qualified, but they won't see them. That's the kind of system we have today. some of these people that were being sworn, if you really go close, you find out that they belong, either they are related to one politician or the other. And you don't expect this kind of people, after getting this favor, you want them to like come and rule in your own favor. I mean, in the favor of the Nigerian people. No, they want to stand with those that puts them in those positions. And that's why we must keep fighting until we get a better Nigeria that we all can trust, you know, that until we start having institutions that are independent of all these politicians and the influence that comes from those in positions of power. So, Doc, I think that's all I have to add.
Yes, thank you. That's good. All right, we call it a night today. Thank you, Nigerians and all lovers of Nigeria, for tuning in tonight. We hope tomorrow will bring you a more interesting, more revealing, and more impactful information. God bless you and good night.
Good night.
Thank you.